Hey everybody, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast. I'm Dustin, and today I'm here with Walla Walla University junior Andrew Vaughan. Andrew, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Andrew, you went to Portland Adventist Academy. Did you grow up in Portland your whole childhood?
I did. Born and raised there till I came to college. So.
Okay. And when did you start playing basketball?
Like organized basketball. I think, I started playing second grade, but I was really just like messing around with a basketball since I was born, I swear. Yeah, I don't know.
I was going to ask, like, was there a moment that you remember that you started to take it more seriously, or you really fell in love with it, or did you just always love it?
I mean, I feel like I always loved it. Like I grew up watching my cousins play. I just remember like as a kid, I would always go to PAA games. And then when I finally got to school there, it was just like, it was on go. And then I was there with the legendary coach, Coach Norm Ballou, one of the, I think, top 10 all-time Oregon State wins. Won a state title in 1992. The one year they let PAA go, they had an undefeated season that year. Coached Todd Manley. He went to Stanford. So he's coached a good program, ran a good system out there. So I got to play for him, which was pretty cool.
I was going to say, I mean, for people that don't know the tradition of basketball at Portland Adventist Academy, it was one of the first Adventist schools that was played in their state, association. It's really got a long-standing tradition there.
Yeah. There was a lot of things that happened there to further Adventist basketball. Like Coach Tony Nakashima, who's a coach here at Walla Walla. He wasn't able to go to the state tournament for quite a few years. And then when he was there was a thing that went to the Oregon Supreme Court, and then they were able to pass a law that they would have to accommodate for Adventist schools in the tournaments. So,
I didn't realize that. You hear about that in some different states, but I hadn't heard that about Portland.
Yeah, it was actually Coach Blue's wife. She was one of the attorneys in that case too. So definitely the Blue family helped Adventist basketball in a big way, especially for Portland Adventist. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because you I don't know if you saw this, but even like a couple of years ago for Oakwood Adventist Academy in Alabama, they didn't get a Sabbath exemption. So
I think I've seen you post something about that, and it actually kind of blew my mind because, I feel like it's been like that for a while, at least where I'm from. So it was interesting to see that that's still a struggle in other parts of the world. So.
Even when I was a senior at Sacramento Academy, that was something that was brand new to, the California Interscholastic Federation. Like they were like, oh, you guys can't play, but it was okay. It wasn't a big deal. We were able to get an exemption, but for some reason, these other states hesitate, and I'm not really sure why, but anyway. So you started to get into club basketball at some point. I remember you telling me this in the past.
A little bit like in high school. I played a little bit in elementary school too, or like in middle school and whatnot. But I really got into it in high school when I got there. I was on JV my freshman year for like half the year, and then they brought me up. And then I remember we lost in the playoffs, and I was like super, super bummed. So I got in the gym with a mutual friend, and he became my personal trainer, and he went to Ole Miss. And then, we got in the gym, and I was in the gym every day at 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. before school. And then that's when I really started taking things to the next level.
And what was your experience playing? I think you said you played AAU, right?
No.
Or was it different?
I played AAU when I was younger, and then my senior year I got to play in the grind session, which that was a whole different thing. That's like a league they do they do it all over the U.S. actually. We traveled a bunch, but they do like months sessions is what they call them, and there's like a bunch of names. LaMelo Ball played in the grind session. Shaden Sharp, Paulo Banchero, Ty Washington, Gary Trent Jr. It's a big league over there. So.
And what did you take out of those runs?
Well, I mean, that was a season. Got to play against some of the best talent in high school. It really showed me that the gap isn't as big as you think, but it's huge at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain.
How did you get better though playing against that talent?
Oh, I mean, it was just like you understand that it's a physical game, it's an athletic game, and I think it just helped you understand that you don't have a lot of space for error. So just simplifying movements is the big thing. I think the higher you get in basketball, the thing that you notice a lot is there's a lot less wasted movements. So everything becomes more succinct, I think. And that's something I took away from it for sure. Because everyone's so much longer. So if you want to get a jump shot off, your mechanics kind of got to be on point.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask you. You know, your jump from high school to college, what was it that you noticed um, that made it harder to score against some of these defenders at the NAI level?
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily I had kind of like a gradual introduction, playing at 3A level in Oregon, which is kind of the middle of the board. It's 1A through 6A, and we were in 3A. So, kind of in the middle there. Um, then luckily I got to get into some of the high elite runs with some of the Division I kids in Portland, and then the top high school players. So I was kind of in the mix with that. And then the grind session, which was, a lot of 5 stars. And then I got to go to college. So for me, I kind of had a stepping stool process to get to college, but even there was nothing that could really prepare you, because once you're there, you're playing against men, developed bodies. I think the physicality of it, I don't think we do a very good job in the Adventist schools of teaching physicality and preparing Adventist kids for the true physical impact that basketball takes to
They're
be
not going to
successful.
let you move freely, right? Like you're not just going to be able to go where you want to go. I
Yeah,
think a
you
lot
get
of high
chucked.
school, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of kids in high school, they're just thinking, well, I'm just going to flash to the ball. Yeah, if they let go of you, but you're getting grabbed, you're getting held, you have forearms that you got to contend with. It's literally you got to go hard just to get the ball.
Yeah, I think initiating contact is probably like the biggest thing that you got to learn in college. I mean, doing it in high school, you automatically probably one of the more high level players, but initiating contact in college, I mean, whoever hits first wins. And if the defender hits you first, you're not getting a lot done on offense there. So
So, Andrew, you're entering your third, or sorry, you just finished your third season at Walla Walla, and your scoring averages have consistently gone up every year. You averaged 15 a game this season, um, and I wanted to ask you because you were averaging 13 last year, 15 this year, and some people might look at that and be like, well, that's not that big of a jump. But like, how much better do you have to get to be able to score at a more consistent, at a higher level from one season to the next? Did you do anything specific that you can look to over the off season to help you increase your average?
I mean, I definitely got a lot stronger. It might not have showed. I might not have put on a whole bunch of weight, maybe like 5 pounds, but I got stronger though for sure. Because yeah, I think the jump shots, that's going to be there, but how they guard you is going to change if you're stronger. So I was trying to open up the court a little bit so I can get downhill and get to the rim a lot more. Um, but I think that, and also just getting better at finishing, it was kind of a focus for me this year. And I noticed I was a lot more successful at getting to the rim and finishing through contact and initiating that contact once again. So that was definitely a big piece of the work.
You talk about initiating contact and being in the weight room and getting stronger. How do you make it through the grind of a full NAIA season, because it wears on you physically?
Yeah, I mean, you're losing weight for sure. I mean, it's tough at Walla Walla to eat properly. I try my best, but it's hard to keep up with it for sure. So definitely losing weight through that process. But um, yeah, I don't know. It's really a mental thing, and you got to force yourself to eat. It's hard to stay in the gym when you're practicing all week, playing games on the weekend, but trying to maintain your body. Stretching is super important. Just trying to stay ready and drinking enough water is huge. I think a lot of people don't focus on that enough, but if you don't drink water, you're gonna
You
have
say that with a
cramps.
smirk, like people give you a hard time about that.
No, I mean, I just think it's like a hard thing to
Yeah,
like
it is.
do.
Unless you get one
And
of those full like gallon jug
I got one.
water bottles.
Yep, 76
There
ounces.
you go.
Carry that
There
to
you go.
class.
Whatever you got to do. Well, and that's the commitment that college athletes put into it. I mean, I think a lot of even your peers, I mean, at least when I was playing in college, like people don't really understand what goes into getting yourself ready for a season and sustaining yourself through a whole season. There's a lot that goes into it from a
hmm
day-to-day basis.
Yeah, not an easy
How
task. Avoiding the injury bug is not easy. Not easy.
how do you mentally make it through each year? Because
Shoot, for me,
sometimes that's almost even like more difficult than the physical aspect of it.
right, mentally it can be very draining at times, and just knowing like things might not always go your way. It's definitely a tough mental drain. But for me, it's really just for the love of the game. Like I don't know what to do with my time when basketball season's over. It's tough. Like I feel so lost right now. I just love it. There's nothing else I know. It's everything to me. So um, it keeps me going. There's so many rough days I've had and just been like, man, I got practice right now. And yeah, I may not feel like practicing, but I love it. Like I get out there and then it's a good feeling.
You get
So definitely that for sure. And just knowing that you're making progress, that's definitely keeps you going.
I remember every spring quarter, I was just like, well, what are we gonna do? Like, oh, there's this that's nearby. I didn't even know about this. They always say that you can only choose three things: social life, schoolwork, and sports, right? Or your
Yeah.
sport. And when you're a student athlete at that level, you just hopefully choose your sport and studying, and you don't get to do a whole lot
Mhm.
out of that. But what do you think of the Walla Walla area and living there now for 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has its long, gloomy parts, but luckily for the athletes, we our time's consumed when the weather's bad, and then we get to enjoy a nice spring here. So it's not bad because we have basketball to keep us happy in the dark, wet, cold winter. So, but I mean, it's a nice little town. Got the colleges. It's kind of up and coming. So, been a lot of development since I've been here. Like they got a Chipotle now, threw in another
Oh,
Burger King and stuff
I'm
like that.
sold.
So
There's Chipotle.
yeah, we're rolling now.
Uh, you ended the season hot. I was just looking it up. I looked it up again because we were talking about this before. And your last 7 games, 5 out of those 7, you scored 20 or more. And you had your last 2 games, you scored a season high 33. Is that your career high? 33?
Yeah.
Your career high 33 on February 16, and then the very next night on February 17, you had 30 with 8 threes. Is 8 threes the most you've hit in a game?
Yes,
I would
definitely. And I think it was a
suspect.
school record too, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
wow.
I can't confirm that, but according to the
Yeah.
books, it is.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
But
We'll
that
go
game
with
was a
that.
lot more impressive than the other game beforehand. But
My question is, you finished this season really strong personally, and you had mentioned, you were dealing with the wrist injury throughout a lot of the season, and so, that clears up and look what you can do. But also, what, and I know it's early, but I know you just had your exit interview with Coach Broom. I mean, what are your goals for next year? Can you make a leap to an even higher average? What is your
yeah.
mindset for next year?
So the keys to that is going to be ball handling for me and footwork. Got to get those things a little bit more succinct and definitely stronger. So those are my goals for this off season. But also, I'm going to work on forearm strength. So hopefully, I don't have another wrist injury or nothing like that. But yeah, just staying into that jumper, kind of leaning into that. Because when the jumper's going, they play you tight, and a lot of the court opens up for you. You can get downhill better. Um, so yeah,
Now,
that's kind of the goals for next year.
when you are hitting from outside, are you coming off screens? Are you catching and shooting? Are you shooting off the dribble, or is it kind of a combination of everything?
It's a little bit of a combination. Another thing I got to work on is shooting off the dribble. It's not something I can't do, but I definitely want to get stronger in that area. So I just have a little bit more rounded game. But it's a lot of pin down actions and things like that. But I'd say it's a pretty even spread though.
Do you like shooting out off the dribble, pulling it in from your left hand off the dribble, or with your right hand?
Definitely off the left hand,
Me
moving
too.
left.
Me too. And I don't know
But
what that is. I think it has to do with the step. You're going left, right into your shot, and so the ball's with your left. You transfer. I'm not really sure, but
well,
I
I mean,
agree.
it's right left footwork. Ball's in your left hand. You can go straight up. I don't know.
Yeah,
A lot of people like it the other way, but not me. Not me.
yeah, I agree. I like that better too. I had a question for you about how much game video that you players watch at the NAI level? Are you guys watching any of these opponents, or is it more something that the coaches are watching and then they bring it into practice?
I think it's a little bit of both. We got a pretty cool software this year. It's called Fast Scout, and so there's the scouting reports that get on there. They get posted like midweek. Um, as a team, we were doing film sessions early on the week before practice, and then going into practice, kind of seeing some of the opponent's actions, and then um, the Fast Scout breaks it down by player. We get to see what they do and do well and don't do well, so we know how to play them. But yeah,
It's
I don't think we
amazing.
watch enough film, but you know,
Well, how does it help you on a practical, tangible level? What are you doing, um, as you're preparing for the game that you're going to actually implement?
yeah. There was like so many examples of that this year, but just knowing what's coming is huge. Just knowing how you're going to guard it, kind of visualizing that before the game. I remember we played at school and they ran this Spain action. They had been kind of cooking everyone with it because they ran it a little differently than a traditional Spain pick and roll. But we worked on it all week and it didn't work once in the game. Like we repped it out in practice, watched the film on how they ran it. We kind of ran it as like a scout team situation. And when it came to game time, like they weren't getting nowhere off of it. So that was an exact like perfect example of what it should be and what
Yeah,
we're looking to do. So definitely,
that's
that's
awesome.
a
That
clear example.
back when I was playing, like literally we had VHS tapes. So if you got one of those from somebody, it's because you had a friend that was a friend of somebody and it got passed around in envelopes, and it was like so much more efficient now and easy. I think Tony Nakashima, the women's coach at Walla Walla, was saying that the Cascade Collegiate Conference requires each school to make their stuff available, right? So everybody has
Yeah,
access to everybody. That's not the case in other NAIA conferences.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking like I think it, I don't know if it's the case,
No,
but I
because
know I have access on Synergy to like every level from D3 to D1, including the NAIA. I can see every game.
so
Um,
maybe like a different. I was talking. I think it was one of our East Coast. It was either I think it was Washington Adventist University. They were saying that they don't have access to all the other schools for some reason. So whatever that agreement is with that conference,
yeah, it
but
might be different.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I just know on the West Coast, or at least on my phone, I'm able to watch games. So on
you
Synergy.
can
So
pull up anybody. That's amazing. So uh, I'm curious at a kind of high view, what do you enjoy most about playing college basketball?
I mean, it's got to be the practice that goes into it. I think just going out there every night and really like it's an opportunity to play high level basketball every night, and then you get to play even higher level where the stakes are higher on the weekend when you're in those games, and so it's just an opportunity to play the sport I love at the highest level for me right now. So I love it. I mean, that's probably my favorite thing is just getting those hits, the physicality of it, the high stakes, the speed. I mean, it's what you work for. It's what you dream for. There's so many kids out there that are dreaming to play college basketball, and I get to do that every day. So it's definitely a blessing. That's my favorite thing.
What's your advice to those kids?
Man, I think just keep chasing it, keep working it. I think, um, I don't know. I hate the stigma in the Adventist world where it's like, oh, like, after high school, you're done. It was just for fun. I mean, you can really, really dig into it and, it can take you places, man. I got to travel all over the whole U.S., meet so many people through the game of basketball, and the connections that you get to make are just, they'll be with you your whole life. Like I run into people all the time that I've hooped with, across the United States. And it's amazing. But most importantly, like, you can be something. Like you really can do it, but you got to put the work in and understand that it's not easy. So just put your head down and get there because man, college basketball is a great time, and I think there's so many people that need to pursue that a little bit harder, especially in the Adventist world. So
What does it mean to you to be a collegiate basketball player as a Seventh Day Adventist? Like, what to you is important about Seventh Day Adventist basketball?
well, it means a lot to me. I mean, I just know that like you know the stigma is that like, the competition, whatever, it's not an Adventist thing to do. But I mean, it's a blessing, especially playing at an Adventist school. Like I get to still uphold my beliefs and still do the thing I love. So that was kind of always a concern, when other schools are talking to me and I'm just like, I can't play on Sabbath, so that's my thing. So getting to have an Adventist school to play at a very high level, there's a bunch of schools in the conference that were talking to me too beforehand. And, it was nice to still be in this conference and playing for a school that holds the same values as me. So, I mean, I just thank God every day. It's a blessing. And, as we talked about earlier, there's high schoolers that don't get to play in their state tournaments. So just knowing that I'm in a conference where I'm able to play and not have to worry about that is amazing.
That's fantastic. Andrew, is there anything that you want to share just about your experience playing college basketball, playing within the Adventist system that you feel like you have learned or that has made you a better person?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
kind of
I
a deep.
definitely think there's a higher level of sportsmanship, at least in my experience, because I played outside the Adventist system. Personally, I've never played against another Adventist school, high school till college. I did a little bit in elementary school and stuff, but
You guys didn't come to the friendship tournament?
nah, we didn't go to tournaments. I don't think PA hadn't gone to a tournament until this year since the year 2000. So my whole lifetime, PA wasn't going to tournaments because of RPI ratings and things like that.
Wow.
But
What's your opinion about that?
um,
Do you
I mean, I
think that
totally
because
understood why we didn't do it at the time
I
because we were trying
understand
to
it.
get to the state tournament. Like that's
Sorry.
the thing.
Yeah,
No,
totally. And
what were you
I
gonna say?
understand that as well. I also wonder if that is something because I've heard that as well, like, and it makes sense. Like going to an Adventist tournament and playing schools that have a terrible ranking, their strength of schedule is not great. That brings your ranking down. It could potentially be the difference maker between going and having a home game in the playoffs or, getting to a further round than you would otherwise. And yet, that's crazy that you didn't have that tournament experience because for some people that they say that's like one of their best experiences of their high school career.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a different situation. It was just the way that Oregon was lined up, like especially at the 3A level, the schedule worked. So the week that the tournament was usually here at Walla Walla, and that weekend where the Adventist tournaments are, that's actually the week that you're gearing up for the league playoffs. So it would just be a lot of movement, especially trying to make a push for the state tournament. The strength of schedule thing is one, but also like driving up to Walla Walla, playing some low level or lower level competition, and then coming back, and all that moving around just could mess up a team as you're trying to make a push. So I think
Agreed.
that's why they didn't do it. But on the flip side of that, I think it's a missed opportunity because it's like from what I've heard from some people I know that have played in that tournament and stuff, it's like the atmosphere is next level. I think my sister got to play in it. She won the Walla Walla tournament when she went to UCA. So, I mean, she loved that experience, and that's something I just never got to taste. So, I don't really know what it
Yeah.
would have been like, but yeah.
Well, it's true. It's totally true that the timing and this I think the timing of our Adventist Academy tournaments are left over from it kind of being the postseason, right? Like we didn't used to play in state associations and have playoffs and all of that. So it's like, well, we're going to put our tournament at the end of the year, so it's sort of the championship of the season for these teams. Well, now a lot of our teams are playing in their state interscholastic, association, and my call to ads to colleges that put this on, because different schools put it on differently. Some of them it's the marketing department, some of them it's the athletic department, some of them it's the local academy that put it on. So whoever's in charge, my advice would be, let's move it earlier. Let's have it be like a kind of an early season tournament, maybe November, maybe early December, something like that, and then it doesn't conflict at all. It's better timing.
I completely agree with that. I mean, I think if it was like that, we would have been there and things would have been a little different because it just would have been a better flow, get the non-conference games out the way, play some Adventist schools, have a really good time. and that would be a good chemistry builder early on in the season. Go on a trip with your team. The nights in the hotels, all that stuff. That's memorable stuff right there. And then you come
Absolutely.
back and then lock in for a season. I think that would be like ideal.
And here's the
For
other
high school.
problem from my perspective now with Adventist Hoops. I had to cover 4 tournaments in like 3 days
Yeah,
back at
that's
the end of January. So that was impossible. And it'd be nice if they were spread out a little bit more. So, hey, PUC, Walla Walla, Andrews, Southwestern, if you're listening, let's see if we can maybe shift some of these. Let's get our heads together and make sure that we can highlight each one, and so that they don't lead into playoffs like you're talking about, because that's huge. I mean, you're going to go wear yourself out playing 5 games potentially, subject yourself to potential injuries right as you're making your playoff push. Now, granted, maybe most of those teams are not making a playoff push, so to them it's not a big deal, but raising the level of competition by having those higher level teams there is only a good thing, I think, for those tournaments.
That's how I view it.
Anyway,
So.
you can tell I have some thoughts on this, and I would love to see it change, because it does restrict some of our schools from participating. And I think that's unfortunate for those kids.
And I think they're just necessary steps as like the level of Adventist athletics. As those steps happen, these are kind of things that I feel like, you got to move with it. You can't stay impeding other Adventist schools, because I think it's good to have that community of Adventist athletics together. But if some schools are going here and then others, I think there should be an accommodation for everyone, so we can keep that Adventist basketball culture and also, be high level programs across the board. So
I just know for me, going to those tournaments, you were able to create friendships with people from other schools that you eventually go to college with, or you still remember them. And when you run into them, because the Adventist world is interconnected, like you have this rapport that from 20 years ago that you still, love hanging out with them. So,
yeah, I remember my freshman year when I got here, everyone's talking about different tournaments they played in, like the Union ones, the North Dallas guys, and the UCA guys, and everyone's the Auburn guys. They're all talking about this tournament they played in, and I'm just like, I don't know.
I
I
don't
played
know. Yeah.
in Salem, Oregon in a tournament. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about this. So it
Yeah.
was kind of like, I felt kind of left out, but
Well, and I
not sure.
think too that before Adventist Hoops, it was like this was the place where everybody got together, and this was our Adventist community, and it was only regional because it was centered around a college, but the community's bigger now. It's growing, and being able to celebrate with more people, more schools at these tournaments would be amazing, because we're highlighting them across the country. So making it available to every school to come if they want is, I think, crucial.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. I love what you're doing. I know, being an Adventist kid, I grew up in Northeast Portland. Basketball culture there is like very high level. Lots of major Division I talent comes out of Northeast Portland, and just raw basketball talent in general. There's a lot of college basketball players that I grew up with, and now we're all over the country. So having that culture to grow up in, and then I kind of want that for like the Adventist system, because it just usually when I'm like, I went to an Adventist school, people are like, I didn't know Adventist players could be good, but we are good, all right. So everyone needs to put them on notice for sure.
That's right. Well, you got any advice? You got any suggestions? Any ideas for the future
Shoot.
for the
Well,
Adventist
one
Hoops?
thing for all the Adventist kids out there, one big thing is you got to market yourself a little bit. You got to go out in those runs. You got to step outside the bubble for a second, and not run away from your Adventist, upbringing. But you got to step out. You can't just play in the Adventist system and think you're gonna step out, because when you get to college, not everyone you play against is Adventist. It's not going to be like that. It never will. You got to go out there, play with the best talent in your city, the best talent in your region, best talent in your state, and just make yourself better. Build those connections, and then take it to the next level, and keep being hoopers. I don't know. I think that's the only way to do it. But
What are some practical suggestions for doing what you're talking about? Like where can kids find that, what you're talking about?
yeah, I mean, for me, luckily I grew up in a very basketball centric neighborhood environment, but I think just trying to get tapped into club programs, stuff like that, meet people, go to the park, meet people, and then just find some people that you can kind of stick to and work out with, and then work your way into those different runs. Try to get the invites. I think the best thing is just getting to know people and trying to go to different runs in local neighborhoods, going to basketball camps that aren't Adventist ran. That way you can, kind of get to know people outside the bubble, but bring that back to your Adventist school and just push your teammates to be better, do the same thing with them. I know at PAA, a bunch of us went to this camp called PGC, Point Guard College. We drove up to University of Washington, so 2.5 hours from Portland, and we went to a camp there. Got to play against a bunch of top talent. It's actually funny. 3 of the dudes in the conference I know from that camp. So,
Wow.
Those are high school connections from kids all around the Pacific Northwest. And now they're all in the Cascade Collegiate Conference. So we see each other, and it's like, do you remember that time at PGC? So
I feel like they got a big YouTube channel that I
PGC, yeah, it's a big program for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned, your club experience and how positive it was. Was there any negatives in your experience playing club?
I got turned down a lot of times from just being like, I'm not going to play on Sabbath. So that is the tough part. Definitely got to find a program that is willing to accommodate for you, And then the other thing is when they do accommodate for you and you start playing well, they're going to be like, oh, come on, we need you. And there's a lot of pressure there. So, just trying to find a club that'll support you to be a better athlete. Because that's the thing, like, especially when you're a young athlete, you're just trying to be the best you can be. So it's important to find a group that will help support that. And yeah, but the biggest hard part was just like not being able to play on Sabbath. So there's so many clubs that go to tryouts that be like, you make the team, here's the thing. And then I talk to them, have that conversation. Hey, I'm not going to play, sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. And they're like, but that's when all the tournaments are, yet I go join another team and get to play a full schedule.
So you played a full schedule because they were playing in tournaments that were not on Saturday, or?
Yeah, actually, it was really crazy. When I played down in the grind session, which obviously not club ball, but it's another situation where I wasn't playing for an Adventist program. I don't know if it was God's blessing or whatnot, but there wasn't a single game. And I don't know how, because the schedule was packed. But our team never played on Friday nights or Saturday in the midday. So I always got to play on those. And then with the other club team in high school, I missed a couple of games here and there, but the coach did a good job of trying to schedule around that for me, switching the schedule around and trying to get me on the court.
That's huge.
Shout out to John Jackson for that.
But the point you made earlier about kids needing to promote themselves, if you're trying to play college basketball, coaches aren't necessarily going to know who you are. And you may think, I want to just be reached out to. Well, especially at, unless you're one of the top prospects in the country, regardless if you're Adventist or not, like they're not going to know who you are. So making sure that you are, getting a compilation of highlights together that show the range of things that you can do. And not just scoring, not just making layups or scoring, hitting open jump shots, but like a wide variety that can show your quickness, your ability to drive with your left hand and your right, your vision, being able to make good passes, all those things, and then sending it out. Feel free to send it to me. I'm happy to distribute. Got a group chat going with the coaches, so I'm happy to, with the Adventist coaches, I should say. But yeah, you got to get yourself out there.
Yeah, I think another important thing going off of that though is you got to also have people that are honest with you. I think there's a lot of inflated egos in the Adventist system. I think a lot of people think they're better than they are.
Yes.
I think it's important to have people that are honest with you and not to demean you, but to also push you to be better. I think if you think, I'm all this and that, you might not be. So you need to have a good support system that'll be honest with you about your skill set so that you can see your weaknesses and improve on those. And I think that's another thing that at times we can lack in the Adventist system, but definitely make sure you make those connections. I got blessed being in Portland. There's a lot of good media works out there, and they support high school across the board over there. And it was a pretty good community. So I got a lot of film and stuff like that.
All right. What do you think about this? I just had this idea like 2 days ago. So back in the day when I was a kid, the And One tour was a big thing. These guys would be out there, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I loved it, of course. But they had a tour where they would go from city to city and they would have tryouts. Local guys would play the And One team. Um, but what if we had Adventist hoop runs where it's like a regional run where, probably centered around a big Adventist community somewhere, and say, for any kid that is top player at their school gets the invite to come play. They might have to drive 2 or 3 or 4 hours to get there, but it's one day. We got all the cameras there, and we capture it all and get them some exposure. And they get to play against some of the best Adventist players out there. Maybe might play with them eventually one day.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be a really cool thing. I think it would be interesting to see how we could do that in a way that would pick up a big enough region to still keep it at a very high level. But I mean, that would be a super cool thing. I think that would be awesome because, there's all this stuff. They always have the state like all-star games or the like Nike camps and stuff like that. At least in Portland, the P40 showcase. So all these showcases, but having the Adventist showcase would be awesome.
Right. Yeah, sure. I mean, I know in California we could do it just because there's so many schools, so many academies here that between Southern California and Northern California, we could do something. But yeah, might be hard other places.
You do a West Coast, East Coast situation. And, I think if you have like, the people that are really serious about basketball, I think if you put this together and made it like a high level situation, I think people would be willing to travel. Because think about it. Kids travel all the time for weekend AAU tournaments to Vegas or to wherever.
That's true.
So I don't think that would be as big of an issue. Proper fundraising, proper support group.
Just
those high level guys are willing to make the travel for sure.
Yeah.
As long as the college coaches will be in attendance, I think.
That was the other thing. I was saying, hey, who wants to host this? And whoever does, it's got to be open to all the Adventist college coaches.
Yeah, I think that would be important because for me, I don't know. Like I'm thinking back to high school. If it was just like for kicks and giggles and it was just a bunch of Adventist dudes going to hooping and there wasn't like real college coaches there, I don't know if I would have spent the money or the time to travel down for fun, like an open run. It'd have to be like something that could further my basketball career. Yeah. But if it was that, I think that would be just an amazing opportunity. Because Broom and I talk about it all the time. If we got all the best Adventist kids at one spot, it would be some nasty runs,
Well, he and I talked about that with, whether all of our best Adventist players could compete at the NCAA Division I level. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean that's for sure a thing. I mean, and putting us all in the same spot, I think the best of the best. It would be a fun time for sure. I mean, I know, there's people in the NBA that grew up Adventist. So DeAndre Ayton, I don't know if Shaden Sharp's Adventist, but he's been going to an Adventist church in Portland, so stuff like that.
Nice.
I think there's definitely talent out there that.
Don't want to spoil anything in case it doesn't happen, but I literally just reached out to the Blazers director of media today, so just gonna drop that out there for those of you who know where DeAndre Ayton plays. All right, Andrew.
Yeah, DeAndre and Shaden both play in Portland.
Yeah, he's not on my radar. I didn't know he's going to an Adventist church. That's interesting.
Well, I don't know if he still is, but I know there was a time frame in which he and one of the assistant coaches were going to a church in Portland pretty consistently. So.
Nice. Real quick, Andrew, what is your major? What are you planning to do after basketball is done here?
I'm studying business finance, and right now I'm kind of looking at healthcare, working in healthcare administration, maybe with Advent Health in Florida or Adventist Health West. Kind of still open to possibilities there, but pursuing that and having fun in it. So
awesome. Oh, I thought of one other thing that I wanted to ask you earlier. Everyone on campus, I'm sure, knows that you play basketball. You have so much time devoted to it. You can understand why people know you as an athlete and a basketball player. But what else do you want to be known for? What other interests do you have?
Yeah, man. I really hope that people see me as like a leader, positive face to see around campus. I think it's important to be nice to everyone you see. So, I love connecting with people. So hopefully people will view me as a kind man. But when I do go out and see people.
Awesome. Last question, which I ask almost everybody, is what does basketball mean to you, Andrew?
Man, basketball has got me through so much. I don't even know where I'd be without it. There are just so many nights where uh, couldn't wait to get to the gym. So I think basketball has just kind of been a structure for my life. It's taught me so many lessons that are applicable in school, in career, and just people skills. You get to meet so many people and learn how to communicate effectively with them. So I think basketball has been a structure for me and helped me be a better man overall. But definitely an irreplaceable experience.
Love it. Well, tell whoever's in the back eating their dinner. I hope we didn't disturb their dinner. I hope it was good, and I'll let you go so you can get some dinner too.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.